conjugate pair is a pair of terms that if we multiply together create the difference of square, like the difference of squares that we did when we multiplied in the first semester. So our goal is to create something like x minus 3. Its conjugate pair would be x plus 3. It'd be what it needs to complete in order for you to have a difference of squares. And remember, when we multiplied this, it always ended up being x squared. Our middle terms canceled out. And minus the last term squared. So we don't have to write these terms down because they will always cancel out. So if you choose the correct conjugate, your middle terms completely cancel out, leaving you just x squared minus something like 9. We're actually going to have 0 variables in today. We're going to be working with imaginary numbers and rational roots. So let's take the first problem. Okay, so first off, we need to identify what is the conjugate pair for this. In order to identify that, I'm going to write the conjugate pair in green. It is the same thing, but the middle sign changing. So instead of a minus, it's going to be a plus. This is the conjugate pair. For your homework, you have to write down what the conjugate pair is and identify what the product would be if you multiply them together. And so the product is going to be the first term squared minus, always minus, the last term squared. So 1 squared is 1. Square root of 5 squared. That's square root of 5 times square root of 5. That leaves us just a 5. The answer is -4. So these two things you're going to have to identify on your homework. What it is when you find the product and what the conjugate pair is. Let's do a couple more examples. If I give you -5 plus 7i, we're still going to have to find the conjugate pair. So again, in green, I'm going to write the conjugate pair. The two terms written down, the last one changing its sign. So that's the conjugate pair. Now we're going to multiply. First terms times each other. So -5 times -5, so that's -5 squared. Always a minus sign. And the last terms multiplied together. So 7i squared. So -5 times -5 is a positive 25. Be careful in typing this in your calculator that you put that in parentheses, as otherwise it will not take that negative sign and square it. Minus seven times 7 is 49. I squared. Remember when we have an I squared, it changes into a what? -1. So going back to our multiplication lesson, remember that those I squareds change into a -1. And so our final answer is 25 minus a -49 times -1. What's this number when we multiply those two together? So plus 49. And so that's going to give us 74. So these are our two answers, the conjugate pair and what it is when we multiply it. Tomorrow we'll be using the conjugate pair to help us solve things. Today we're just going to be multiplying with that conjugate pair just to get in the habit of multiplying with it, because that's something we'll be doing tomorrow. Last one. What is the conjugate pair? The 5 doesn't change its sign. The only thing that changes its sign is this. That middle sign will change. So take our first two terms, and we multiply those together, giving us 5 squared minus the last two terms, or last term multiplied together. And so that means we're going to square both pieces inside the parenthesis. So we have 25 minus 2 squared, which is 4. What does a square root squared do?
Makes it a solid number.
Makes it a solid number, takes away the root. What's 4 times 3?
4.
So our final answer is 25 minus 12, which is 13. So our two answers is the conjugate pair and that's the answer.